Hello everybody and welcome back to Legendary Champions. Today we're taking a look at Black Widow. Let's do it! Alright, so starting off with Alter Ego side, Natasha Romanoff. She's got 3 recovery, shield spy, and her ability is mission prep. Response, after you play a preparation card, draw 1 card. Limit once per phase. She's also got hand size of 6 and 9 hit points. Alright, so first off, hit points are very, very low. Iron Man has 9 hit points as well, but obviously you can build him up to get really high hit points. And then like Spider-Man has 10. So there's, she's definitely the lowest. And Spider-Man I think has ways to deal with certain things. He also has really good healing. So being 9 hit points, 3 recovery is her downside, but it's one of her only downsides, so that's good. As far as her ability, drawing a card when you play preparation, that's awesome. The only thing is that that's of course just on the Alter Ego side. So to get the most out of that ability, you're going to have to be flipping back and forth a lot because you're going to be playing a lot of preparation cards with her. If you don't know what the preparation cards are, I'll go over in that in just a minute. Flipping over to her hero side, we have Black Widow, and her stats are 2 thwart, 2 attack, and 2 defense. And her ability is Widowmaker. Response, after you trigger the ability of a preparation card you control, deal 1 damage to an enemy. She also has a hand size of 5 and hit points are the same. She's an Avenger and Spy as well. So her stats really good across the board. They're the same as Cap's and Black Panther's. So she can do pretty much anything well, and that makes sense. I think she's able to kind of be really versatile. I think some people have complained about how good her stats are, being that she's not like a very strong or powerful Avenger. She's obviously very capable and has excellent skills, but why are her stats so strong as somebody like Captain America or Black Panther, right? But I've kind of touched on this before, but you have to look at the whole kit of a hero and don't just look at stats and say, why isn't this person's stats better than this other person's stats? Because really their Alter Ego side, their hero side, those 15 cards, it's really a 16 card set, right? You have to look at everything in the 15 cards as well as the abilities on both sides of the hero card, the Alter Ego, the recovery, hand size, hit points. Everything goes into balancing the hero. And I'm not going to say every hero is perfectly balanced with each other, but all of those things are important. And so theoretically you could have a really awesome OP hero card and then just sort of like so-so run-of-the-mill, even terrible hero cards that go along with them. And that, if that's thematic, then great. But you really have to look at the whole set, and that's what I think is so cool about it, is when you have a whole set for a hero, then there's a lot more that you can play around with in terms of balancing them and making certain things feel really cool and thematic. So I had to throw that out there. Anyway, so stats good, solid all around. The ability, Widowmaker, is cool. Obviously, for most of her preparation, not all of them, you're going to have to be in hero mode to use those. And getting an extra damage off of each of them helps her be able to deal damage, because that is something that she does lack in. The hand size is standard. And one thing about the ability as well is you get to trigger it every time you do a preparation. So if you have 3 or 4 go off, on the off chance that happens in one turn, then you're getting an extra damage for each of those, which is great, and you get to throw it around wherever you want, which is also really helpful for pinging things like toughness and taking care of pesky minions that stick around. All right, next we have her signature ally. It's Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes. He has a cost of 4, 2 thwart, 2 attack, 4 hit points. Got a wild resource. He's an Avenger Spy. And his ability is reduce the cost to play Winter Soldier by 1 for each preparation card you control. So this is really good card to have, and it's pretty thematic too. It's like the more prepared she is, then maybe she was prepared and calling up Winter Soldier for help too, right? So it's really cool. If you're even paying like 3 for this card, 4 is not terrible, but if you're even paying 3, it's a really good deal. But most of the time, you're probably going to pay 2 or less for this guy. So he could even be free potentially. And that's a great value because you're getting up to 8 thwart and or attack for just this one guy, possibly a free card. So that's really cool. He's not like super flashy as far as an ability, but it is somewhat thematic and just super helpful to have on the board. He could take damage for you. He could do that extra thwart and attack that you need. And that's one thing you'll see as we go along is just kind of overall with her whole kit, Black Widow is really good at spreading out damage to a ton of different resources. So you've seen certain characters with AoE abilities. She doesn't have an AoE ability per se, but she can deal out just tiny bits of damage all over the place consistently. And that's a good ability to have. Her next card is Covert Ops. She's got 2 copies here. It's 3 cost event, thwart, action. Remove 4 threat from a scheme. Confuse the villain. Super powerful card. It's maybe seems a little expensive, but what you're getting for it is great. If you consider Spider-Woman the ally, she costs 3 and confuses the villain. Here you get to remove 4 threat, which is quite a bit of threat, and you get a confuse out of it, so you can really prevent the villain from scheming and getting to his scheme a good chunk with this card. So very helpful and pretty thematic as well as far as being Covert Ops. So you got 2 copies of that. And then we have Dance of Death. It's an excellent card. She's got 2 copies of it. It's a 3 cost event, and it's attack, hero action, make the following 3 attacks in order. Deal 1 damage to an enemy, deal 2 damage to an enemy, deal 3 damage to an enemy. Really just powerful card when you think about it. If you can actually use it to deal just straight 6 damage, in 3 steps to an enemy. So it's not like dealing a ton of damage, but being able to throw around 3 different attacks with one play is really good. And because you do it in this order, that could potentially be bad for you, but most of the time it works really well. So you can, ping off a toughness, kill a little villain, a little minion for 2, and then hit somebody for 3, or finish off, the villain with a couple of those and then hit a minion. Or because it's staggered, finish off the first stage of a villain possibly, and then hit his next stage. So it's really cool just how it's layered like that. Again, it's not as much damage as like a hammer throw or a swing web kick, but it really allows you to throw stuff around and just hit the exact stuff that you need. And most of the time you don't feel this with other heroes, but there are times when you're just like, man, I can only hit one villain this turn, because that's just the card I have right now, or one or two villains. But this allows you to really spread around the damage, and then, again, that's just one thing she's really good at. So 2 copies of that. Then we have a 1-cost support, Safe House number 29. Location Shield, and it's an alter ego action. Exhaust Safe House number 29 and choose a preparation card in your discard pile. Add that card to your hand. This is really good for paying for things. It's not just good for pulling back preparations, which is important because not only are you trying to get out preparations, but because you use them and discard them, you're constantly going to want to be playing preparations. Like, unlike Iron Man, where you kind of want to get all your upgrades out, or Black Panther, where you're just getting those out so you can be as effective as possible, Black Widow has to constantly be playing her preparations. So with this allows you to keep pulling back ones that you really need. And it also allows you, you can have one in hand, pay for one preparation, then pull a card back, and then pay for another one. It allows you to have extra cards in your hand, which is good. It is just for alter ego, though. Okay, next we have Acrobatics. Okay, we have 2 copies of this. So now we're getting into mostly her preparation cards here. And so if you don't know, the preparation cards are basically kind of like trap cards. You set them up during your turn, and then they typically trigger during the villain's turn in some way, and allowing you to cancel certain effects, or just usually you're canceling something and then doing something, or just canceling something altogether. Sometimes you just get a bonus out of when something happens. Now these aren't the only preparation cards she has in her pack. She actually comes with others. Now in these videos I'm just covering the hero cards. I'll cover aspect stuff later, but she comes with her own set of prep cards, but then in each aspect she has preparation cards. Most of those cards, I believe she has 2 different kinds in Justice and only 1 in the other aspects. And then, but she also has a couple in the basic cards as well. So there are lots of options you can use to build and get the most out of her her abilities on her hero and alter ego side. Okay, so this is a 1-cost upgrade at Acrobatics. It's an attack, preparation, as you see, and a skill. Hero Interrupt, attack. When a boost card is turned face up, discard Acrobatics. Cancel the boost icons on that card. Deal 1 damage to the villain for each boost icon canceled this way. So this is great. It's not going to do a lot of damage for you. The most it's going to do is 3 right now, but it is going to defend for you as well. So it's blocking damage and allowing you to reverse some of that damage on the enemy. So it's a very good card and cheap with only 1. Also, as you'll see with some of her other preparation cards, it's just it's one that's really easy to use. You may find yourself waiting for the opportune time to use it. And that's another thing, just because it's not, if you're not super familiar with the game, the preparation cards are not a forced response. So when you play a preparation card, you get to choose when you want to trigger it. Now, you have to meet the first part of the cost, right? So a boost card has to be turned face up for you to use Acrobatics, for example. But you get to do that. Sorry, space for a sec. But you get to choose when you want to do that. So, so if you're, if he gets a boost card with no boost icons on it, or just 1 boost icon, you can wait. You can wait for one with like 2 or 3 on it, so that you are blocking damage and getting more out of it. You don't have to trigger that. And I made that mistake at first, just because it wasn't, I was kind of blanking on stuff. But it's just not a forced response. So So you don't have to do it. You get to choose when you want to do it as long as you meet the conditions of the card. But this is great. It's one of our best ones, and because it's so cheap, you can, as long as you have the safe house out, you can be kind of constantly getting it out, and it's going to be consistently useful for you. So we got 2 copies of that. And then we have 2 copies of this upgrade, Black Widow's Gauntlet. It's a 1-cost upgrade. And it says tech, resource, exhaust Black Widow's Gauntlet, generate a wild resource for a preparation card. Not sure why they specified wild resource. Perhaps something could affect something in the future. Right now, it doesn't really affect you to what kind of resource you would be using to pay for a preparation card. But these are great. You get both of them out, and what's good about them is it basically is going to remove the cost of having to pay for your preparation cards, because most of them are just so cheap. You could basically get out a couple of preparation cards just with using these, and haven't even used anything in your hand yet. So now what I think is cool about these cards thematically is that with this, and even like Spider-Man's web shooters, you see how they have kind of sort of dampered the power levels of some of the lower level heroes that they're making, compared to like Cap or Thor, who have similar upgrade abilities that stay out there and you can use them for anything, right? Because Cap and Thor are considered more powerful, but Widow, she has a very similar card, but it can only be used for preparation cards, or Spider-Man's web shooters are limited, and so they, go away after a few uses. So I love the theme on that. I think some people don't like them because they feel limiting, but they're just 1-cost upgrades, and you're going to be playing those preparations so much. These are going to be useful to you. Really, they're, besides taking up a spot in your hand, they're immediately useful too. All right, next we have maybe her best preparation card here. It's a 2-cost upgrade, Grappling Hook, Preparation Tech, Hero Interrupt. When you reveal a treachery, discard Grappling Hook, cancel the effects of that treachery, and discard it. So this is similar to her Preparation Ally, Protection Ally card. In that she's canceling a card, particularly treacheries, which are probably the worst ones, like Gang Up, or especially Shadows of the Past, Advance, all those really tough ones that can really hit you at the wrong time and are in pretty much every game you're playing, right? Well, this is the opportunity to get rid of it, and unlike her ally card, you don't have to draw a new one. It's just completely canceling it, and you get rid of it. So that's really awesome to have. You're going to want to be getting this one out as much as possible. Now, unlike the Acrobatics, you're not going to be using this every turn, but you're going to want it out there for when those big, tough treacheries come out. So you get 2 copies of that. Use them wisely. Next we have 3-cost upgrade, Synth Suit. This is not a preparation. This is Armor Tech. Black Widow gets +1 defense, and Hero responds after you trigger the ability of a preparation card you control. Exhaust Synth Suit, ready Black Widow. This is a very good card for her, being so low on health and not having a lot of ways to deal with attack and things like that. Now, Black Widow is kind of subtly defensive in that, because she's canceling the villain in a bunch of different ways with her preparation cards, she is preventing certain damage from happening. So if you're blocking, if you cancel a treachery, that treachery is probably going to be a treachery that would deal damage to you. Unless it's advanced, Gang Up would, block a lot of attacks from you. If you canceled Shadows of the Past, that would prevent a dangerous minion from coming out. So she, again, she's like I said, she's subtly defensive in that way. But you're going to get attacked from time to time, and this is a great way to use it. She gets the +1 defense, and if you're using her right, you block with her, and you do that when you're using a preparation card. Now, ideally, you're going to want to have probably at least 3 preparation cards out every turn, and 3 different ones, so that you're ready to deal with exactly what you need to deal with. But you only need 1 to trigger it, and then you can block. You're readied, and then you'll be ready for your next turn. So it's really good. It's a little tricky to use, but very helpful for her and her low health. All right, her last card is Widow's Bite. It's a 1-cost upgrade, preparation tech. I love the art on this one too, especially because you might be using it against that guy a lot. It's hero response attack. After a minion enters play, discard Widow's Bite, deal 2 damage to that minion, and stun it. Cool. This is a cheap card. It's thematic, right? And being able to do a little bit of damage, and stun a guy, keep him busy. And you could use it on anybody. The only issue I have with this card is that it's hard to use or time correctly, I guess. There are certain villains that just aren't going to have a lot of minions, and then there are minions that you might deal 2 damage and then they're dead, or they might have toughness, or and again, you can choose when you want to use this, which is nice. But it seems like this one gets just not as much use as I would like out of it. So, but it's still a very fun card, and that stun can be super helpful. So that's Black Widow. A very thematic, fun hero to play, and she just feels so different than the other heroes. That's what's cool about her. And they all feel different. That's what I love about this game. But even more so with her, she just plays so differently, setting up things, canceling so much stuff that the villain's doing. It's just it's a fun, different style of play that you get to do with her. So, all right, let's jump into her strengths. Her biggest strength, by far, I think, is canceling. She just is really able to just kind of shut down what the villain's doing, and I could say shut down his schemes, but it's really not just his schemes, it's anything. You shut down his damage, you shut down his minions, you shut down his scheming tactics. She is just really good at just taking whatever the biggest things the villain's kind of throwing at you and putting those down. Her weaknesses are her low health, which you do have to watch out for. Rhino can one-shot you, if you're not ready for it. So you've got to be aware of that, have things to deal with it. Also, her damage. This is both a strength and a weakness. So I mentioned earlier she can really spread out damage, and not in an AoE way, right, where she can hit a bunch of villains, but with her hero ability, dealing 1 damage to anybody whenever a prep goes off, and then things like Dance of Death, she can really spread around her damage, choose who she wants to hit, when she wants to hit it, but she's just not going to do a ton of it. The biggest attack you can do at once is the Dance of Death, right? And that's at most 6, which is on the weak side of like a big attack. But again, being able to spread that out can be really helpful in some instances, but you're probably going to find yourself taking longer to beat a villain. You're probably going to take more turns than you would with somebody like Thor or Cap, who can just kind of consistently be hitting. Instead you're shutting down what the villain's doing, and you're just kind of sprinkling damage along the way. If you're, know how to play with her, it's probably not going to be difficult, but it still might take longer than it would normally to beat a villain, just because you have to just do it a little bit at a time. Most valuable card, I some really good cards here. I debated with myself over it for a while. Sensuit's really good, but it can be tricky to use. Winter Soldier is really good, really really good. Like I said, you're probably not going to pay more than 2 for him most of the time, and that's just a crazy good deal for what you're getting. But as far as what it's you're gonna get him out like maybe once in the game. And I just think she has a couple of cards that are just more for her, and those are Grappling Hook and Dance of Death. Grappling Hook may sit out, but it can save your game for sure. But I'll have to say Dance of Death, just because it's a very unique card. I think it's our most valuable card. Because of how unique it is, and because you can just really spread around so much damage with it, or you can use it as just a straight 6 attack, and that just seems it embodies a powerful hit with what she's doing, a lot of what she's doing, spreading around damage to different people. So I think I'm going to go with that, but any of those could be useful. I just think they're a little more, you're just not going to see them as often as you would that one. Okay. Weakest card, Widow's Bite. I like the card. I think it's fun. I like using it. But depending on what villain you're facing, you just might not have the best occasion to use it. If they come out with toughness, you're not going to get the damage. If they come out with 2 health, you're not going to get the stun. And you can only use it on minions. If it's a bigger minion, yeah, you slow them down and you deal a couple of damage, but you still got to find another way to deal with them. Further on in the future. In the next turn or two. So I'd have to go with that one. And again, it's not a bad card. I wouldn't even say it's a weak card. I just think as far as what she's got going on, it's probably the one that's going to sit there the longest for you, as far as your preparation skills, at least within her set. And when you're playing her, you want to be getting those preparations off consistently. You want to be getting one off every turn. And so that one just, I think, is just a little too situational, and even when it goes off, may not do exactly what you may not get the most out of it. So. All right, let's jump in and look at her obligation and nemesis here. So we got Burn Notice as obligation, and it says give to Natasha Romanoff player. You may flip to alter ego form, choose exhaust Natasha Romanoff, remove this card from the game. Discard the preparation card you control with the highest cost. If you cannot, this card gains surge. Discard this obligation. This is actually, I like the art on it, but it's actually the first one that I feel like maybe is not super thematic, just because I don't know why a burn notice would require you to leave, a fight with a villain. Occupying your time. All the other ones seem to be like a more immediate concern that the character has to deal with in their personal life. This one is kind of like, maybe you found out about your burn notice while you were fighting, but why do you need to deal with it right now? Anyway, as far as the negative on the second one, discarding preparation card, the highest cost. Her highest cost preparation is 2, which is the grappling hook, at least in this, in what she's got going on here. And some of the aspects are 2 cost ones as well, I think. And grappling hook is her best preparation, so that could hurt you. But you could have a couple of them out, and you could get it back pretty easily. So as far as obligations go, this one's not too crazy. Her nemesis, Taskmaster, is minion, 0 cost, or sorry, 0 scheme, 0 attack, 4 health. Hydra Elite says Taskmaster gets +1 scheme and +1 attack for each upgrade you control. And then he also has a boost ability. For this activation, the villain gets +1 scheme and +1 attack for each upgrade you control. So kind of doing the same thing either way. Yeah, this one can be pretty tough. What's interesting about it though is like when Loki comes out, you know, if he comes out late for Thor, his scheme is gonna just destroy you. It's, you know, besides him being tough, his scheme is just automatically gonna be really bad. What's interesting about Taskmaster is, yeah, he could come out late in the game and he could have really high scheme and attack, but you could also make him weaker by using that stuff, getting rid of it, and then he might just be, you know, 1 scheme, 1 attack. So it's kind of interesting that you can kind of, you know, he could be stronger, but then you could make him weaker. You know, there's kind of a balancing act there. And that can go the other way too. But he's definitely on the stronger side of villains, because most of the time he's going to be more challenging for you to deal with. But that boost ability is probably even worse than his normal one. And then his side scheme is Killer for Hire. When revealed, place an additional 1 threat per player here. And it comes out with 3. And it has an acceleration icon. So nothing super special here. You know, it shouldn't be too crazy hard to get rid of. Then he comes with 2 Hydra mercenaries. They both have guard. So that can block your attacks, but it's not going to block the damage that you're throwing around. So so you can use the damage to get rid of these, but you can still throw around Black Widow's hero ability damage to the villain, bypassing this. You just can't attack while they're out there. But we've seen these guys before, so they're coming back. I like that they're adding more Hydra though. Then we have Deadly Shot Treachery. When revealed, Alter Ego, discard an upgrade you control and place 1 threat on the main scheme. Or when revealed, Hero, discard an upgrade you control and take 1 damage. So, you know, losing one of your prep cards most likely either way. Doing a little extra. So nothing too crazy there. As far as Nemesis goes, his minion is, you know, like I said, it can be tough, but you can also make him weaker. But his other cards really aren't anything special. So at worst, you know, the worst part about him is honestly that he's got all that Hydra stuff going on. And if you add him to like Legions of Hydra or things like that, then that just compounds all the Hydra villains you have to deal with. So that's Black Widow. Your trivia question for last time: what was Thor's original alter ego? When he started out in the comics, he actually had an alter ego completely different than what he has now. He was known as Donald Blake, who was, I think he was a medical doctor, and he had like this cane, and that would like become Mjolnir, and like Thor would sort of possess him, and he would become Thor. And I don't know, it was kind of weird at first. Eventually, they just kind of wrote that out and said, you know, that was just kind of a test, a proving thing for Thor, and he was really just like Thor was Thor, and Donald Blake was just this sort of creation to make him more humble. But anyway, that was his original alter ego. Now, your question for Black Widow: what is the name of the other Black Widow in the comics? So there's 2 Black Widows, and the other one's being introduced in the new movie when that eventually comes out. But this one, obviously the most famous, Natasha Romanoff, but there is another one, typically portrayed with blonde hair, is the other Black Widow. So what's her name? So that's your trivia question. That's Black Widow. Hope you guys are doing okay out there. Hope you enjoyed the video. Stay legendary, champions. We'll see you later. Bye.